Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to the Crystal Lee's Chance channel. I am the creator, Crystal Lee, and welcome. On this channel, we have 3 videos that we usually post every week. It's a moody Monday where you never know what video you're going to get, but it's always a mood, it's always a vibe, and you'll always get a video. On Wednesdays, we do What We Reading Wednesdays, when we talk about the books we read, we want to read, and are currently reading, in addition to other fun bookish things. And on Fridays, we do Van Life Friday videos where I make videos, whether it be vlogs or just informational videos about my alternative lifestyle living in a van. If any of that seems like your vibe, subscribe or just wait till I pop up on your screen whenever you want to see or hear my voice. For every one book I finish, I add 5 more to my TBR. There's just so many good books to read. In today's video of What We're Reading Wednesday video, we are going to be talking about lessons that I've learned through reading books over the past year. Last year, July 5th, I turned 30. And on that day, I bought 3 different books because I really wanted to get back into reading. Those 3 books were the start of my journey back into reading, and I fell in love with reading all over again. And a lot of the books that I read, I learned a lot from, because I do believe you can learn a lot from fictional books. And today I'll be talking about the lessons I learned in the 4 books I learned those lessons from. I'm in my van. I'm outside, clearly. If you hear a humming, it is my fan that I have on, because what we're not going to do is sit here sweating bullets talking about life lessons. So the first lesson is stay cool. These aren't in the order in which I read them, it's in the order in which I thought about them. And the first book that came up is the book Sula by Toni Morrison. Sula was the first Toni Morrison book that I read. I have read pieces from Toni Morrison, cannot remember, but I know I have read her work before, and I always thought of her as an amazing writer. This year is when I actually delved into some of her works, and I hope to read more, but Sula was my first dive into her, into her novels, and it was very, 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 very good. Sula and Nell are 2 young Black girls, clever and poor. They grow up together, sharing their secrets, dreams, and happiness. Then Sula breaks free from their small town community in the uplands of Ohio to roam the cities of America. When she returns 10 years later, much has changed, including Nell, who now has a husband and 3 children. The friendship between the 2 women becomes strained, and the whole town grows wary as Sula continues in her wayward, vagabond, and uncompromising ways. The lesson that I learned from this book, everyone, we need the dichotomy of lives to bring value to the life path that we choose. And what I mean by that is Sula and Nell were both growing up and being apart from their community and finding solace and in their friendship. And there are a lot of things that they did together that were really crazy, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but they obviously took 2 different paths. And when Sula came back, Nell kind of took on the life of their hometown in Ohio, which is a wife, a mother, a homemaker. But Sula took a different route and being more explorative and wild. And when she came back, there was a line in the book that said, and when she came back, there were a sky full of dead crows, because a lot of them dropped dead. And people took that as an omen that Sula was the worst thing that could happen to them and she shouldn't have come back. Over the course of the book, Sula is just living her life, doing what she does. And some of the things she does, a little bit sus. And because people already see her as other or see her as bad, everything she does is within a lens of badness. And so because Sula is someone who's not a mother, the mothers of the town took to being better mothers because they took pride in being a mother, because they saw Sula not being a mother and thought of her as bad, and found value in their motherhood. Same thing for womanhood, same thing for when it came to just straight up dating, same thing when it came for how people are involved in community where Sula was not. But before all that, they weren't really taking care of their kids well. They weren't really being the best of wives. They weren't really being the best in the community. The community was god awful, but they were able to change their behavior because they found value in their life because Sula was othered. And the same thing for Sula. Sula felt the same way. She loved her life because she wasn't a mother. She wasn't a homemaker. She wasn't a wife. She was just her. And the life that she created for herself was something that she really, really loved. At the end of the day, no one had a bad life. No one had the worst life in the world. No one had a good life, but they all found value in the life that they chose because they can see the opposite of it and think, I don't want to do that. And because there was a life path that they didn't want to do, that in turn created some value in what they already did, and they wanted to hold on to that value, hold on to that kind of like better than thou, because I have this, that, and the third. And the same thing for Sula. I'm not saying that Sula didn't do the same thing. It was both sides. Sula and the community value in their life because they can see the other and just grab onto that. And what that showed me is that no matter what life that you take, you're going to find value in it, because in the life you take might have been a result of not wanting another life. Like, I personally am in a van because I didn't find that where I currently am is the best place for me to have a home. It doesn't mean that I hate people who, is that a dragonfly? Hey girl. It's not that I'm seeing people who do have homes as less than or stupid or like drinking the Kool-Aid of the society or whatever. It's just that it's not the life for me. And at some point I may want a home, but it may not be here. But it doesn't mean that once I get the home that I'll view people doing van life as less than or anything. I love my life and I love the path that I take, and at any point I can choose to do a different path, but I understand how a different life, how people can view a life opposite of them as less than or as a little bit of pride to the life that they chose, because it's not that. It shouldn't matter what other life someone has chosen. If you're choosing a life that makes you happy, that is all that matters. But I understand we do need the dichotomy of life to feel that what we chose is right for us. And that's what I learned from Sula. It was an amazing story, and Toni Morrison did a great job of not just writing two main characters, but of writing a group of people who really make the story enjoyable to read, because it's not just the perspective of two, it's the entanglement of everyone and their actions and how it played into everyone else's actions, their lives, and how the community in Ohio actually functioned or didn't function properly. It was only 174 pages. Like, if you were to go into Goodreads, if you want to follow my Goodreads, it's linked in the bottom, but my Goodreads, the review starts off with, I'm tired of books under 200 pages destroying me, and this book literally destroyed me. Like, destroyed me. It talks about friends and family. It talks about motherhood and daughterhood. It talks about relationships, intimate or other. It talks about racism. It talks about discrimination, and that the dichotomy of life being important is one lesson that I learned and one important lesson for me. But there are so many other lessons, or not even lessons, because you don't have to go into a book learning a lesson, but there are so many other cool realizations in this book that I think are cool. And if that's your vibe, I would pick it up. I don't know if I said it, but I rated Sula 4 stars out of 5. The second book that I read that taught me an important life lesson is a book called Funny Story by Emily Henry. Daphne always loved the way her fiance Peter told their story, how they met on a blustery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He really was good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra, which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Scruffy and chaotic, with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose co-workers know so little about her, they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex. Right? That's the story. Crystal, what lesson could you possibly learn from that? And that's why I love reading fiction at my big age of 30, because it's stories founded in life after you're a teen, after your 20s, when you're in your 30s and you're learning a lot more about life. Elementary, high school, college are definitely prequels to a life, where I feel like your 30s is where you actually take everything from the past 30 years and start molding the life that you want. And that comes with reflecting on the past, even the bad parts. And that is what was in this book. So the premise is very fun and very like, where can we go? But the writing and the actual breakdown of the story, I felt was like much more than that. And the lesson that I learned from this book was being present enough to know the life you dreamed of is right in front of you. Daphne had a life of moving around a lot because her mom was just someone who took job after job, which caused them to move a lot. So Daphne wasn't really good at having roots anywhere. And the first rooted part of her life was being engaged or having a relationship and then engaged to Peter. His name was Peter, right? Peter, yes. And she really thought she found some solitude and finally having a stable and rooted life with a person who just fits and just seems right until it didn't. He finally realized that he was in love with his best friend, and that caused an uproot, obviously, of Daphne's life. But as she is dealing with this fallout and as she is roommates with Miles, she is learning a lot more about herself that she didn't know before. She is learning that she actually does want friendship, and she's learning how to be a better friend to some of the people at her job. She is learning how to open up more and really share what she's going through. She's reflecting on her life before, reflecting on her engagement to Peter, and realizing, okay, this isn't really what I want. It's just what I thought I wanted, because I think we deem milestones in life as making it and as having a life on the right path. For women, it's probably graduating from college, it's finding a boyfriend, then them being our fiance, and then them being our husband, and then having kids, and then the kids growing up, and then something retirement. Those are all milestones of a normal life. And Daphne is now trying to figure out what is normal for her. What is a life that she actually wants? What does she want to do? Because everything has just been her going along with it, but not making active decisions in her life. When we stop and think about and look around at the life that we have and question, is this a life that we want? It requires us to reflect on how we got here, and if we were just on autopilot, or if we were actively making choices in our life. And that comes with the realization that we weren't, or it comes with us figuring out, maybe I wasn't all autopilot, but this probably is actually, but this is the life I want. Reconciling with that, then going forward with everything that we learned from it. And because Daphne always kept moving around, it was hard for her to see, again, with the fallout of her engagement and with the situation between her and Miles. It was hard for her to see that the life that she has is actually pretty freaking good. She loves being a children's librarian. She loves all the faces of the people that she worked with, and as it comes into the library, and how she is able to help add more books and add more stuff to the library to help the kids that she loves and the people that she loves. She learns how to be a better friend, and she learns how to be a partner and ask her for what she wants, because obviously at the end, her and Miles end up dating. Like, it's not a spoiler, we know how these stories end, but at the end, when they end up like being together, she still makes a decision to move out of their home so they can figure out themselves together and apart, and that's beautiful. And it took her kind of sitting with this fallout to look around and be like, hey, this life has some components of what I want, and then some I don't, and I will work on figuring out how to get rid of the ones I don't and keep the ones I have, and work really hard to foster those relationships, work really hard to foster this life and go forward. When we're in survival mode, when we don't have roots in our life, it is easy for us to just be on autopilot and just keep going without asking ourselves, is where I am where I want to be? And do I want to stay? Being able to stop and look around at some of the beautiful things that have developed in my life has made me realize that the life that I have wanted when I was younger is right in front of me. And maybe it doesn't seem or look exactly like it is, and it's still developing, but I have so much of what I wanted when I was younger. The next book on the list is a book called Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. I'll accept absolutely no criticism about this book. It was my first read from Charmaine Wilkerson. I think it was her first book, and it was just beautiful. She also has her book called Good Dirt, and it kind of follows the same writing style as Black Cake. I have my reviews on that. I have my judgments on that book. Ooh. Okay, anyway, we're moving on. I found a couple more books that I may want to read. I am only human. And here it is. This is the description of the book. We can't choose what we inherit, but we can choose who we become. In present-day California, Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her two children, Byron and Benny, a black cake made from a family recipe with a long history and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island from under suspicion of murder. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds, and the secret she holds back, and the mystery of a long-lost child challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. Can Byron and Benny reclaim their once close relationship, pierce together Eleanor's true history, and fulfill her final request to share the black cake when the time is right? Will their mother's revelations bring them back together or leave them feeling more lost than ever? Charmaine Wilkerson's debut novel is a story of how the inheritance of betrayal, secrets, memories, and even names can shape relationships and history. Deeply evocative and beautifully written, Black Cake is an extraordinary journey through the life of a family changed forever by the choices of its matriarch. This was also turned into a Netflix series, so if you want to watch it and read it or do either, those are all up for you if you want it. This book gives us perspectives on everyone important in the life of the mother who passes away. And I want to do where I okay with spoiling some things. I don't want to spoil anything for this book, so I'm gonna choose my words wisely. The entire book shows us what happens when you hold stuff from yourself in order to save face, when we are ashamed of the most darkest parts of ourselves or our lives, how keeping those secrets and not being able to be our true selves limit the relationships that we have, whether it be with our kids or other. And it was a beautiful story. But what I learned from it is everyone has a story. Telling it or keeping it a secret can impact future lives. The mom had a lot of secrets, and it made Byron and Bryce, and it made the brother and sister, Byron and Benny, rethink a lot of how they were raised, rethink a lot about themselves, and they had to quickly come to the realization that the life that they led and the life that their mother and father led were not the lives that were not their true lives. And they had to bear the consequences of the mistruths that their mom and dad told them. When it comes to my family, I know that my mom and my dad have had a life. And I know that the decisions that we make in our life can cause a lot of shame and to make us seem like bad people or dark people. But sometimes that shame of it all can lead us to want to hide parts of ourselves. But when you hide a part of yourself and you only show the quote unquote good parts or the parts that are a little dark where you're able to share, truth starts to seep through the cracks of what you try to cover, and it makes for a very confusing life. And I have learned that when we keep the darkest parts of ourselves a secret from the people that we love, not saying that you have to always expose everything about yourself to everyone, but when we keep parts of ourselves hidden, it limits us from evolving, because there are lessons in the darkness that we face, and there are realizations of what happened that we keep ourselves from realizing because we're afraid to go back to that part. And that's okay. We humans are very, very sensitive. Like, our bodies are capable of a lot, but at the end of the day, we are sensitive beings, and our nervous system and our emotions just can't take a lot of the things that we have to go back and look at. But I also believe that when we hide parts of ourselves, especially if we have generations after us and we don't share them, it keeps the generations after us from learning those lessons and having those realizations too. If you went through something and you don't want somebody else to go through it, or you want someone else to realize that they don't have to go through it, and the only way to not go through it is to learn when you're almost going in it. Obviously, this is very pointed, but I think it could be used for like a lot of things. It's very like, I'm being very like, but I feel like the overarching thing of what I'm saying can be used for a lot of examples, but when you limit what you want to learn because you're afraid to look at something, it also limits what other people learn as well. Because we learn through stories, we love through stories, we live through stories, and they're just important for us to know. But if there's this part of a story that you're keeping to yourself, then it gets buried in what could help evolve something or someone. And again, I'm not saying say it all. I'm not saying do a whole expose. I'm just saying some things are important to reflect on, and some things are important to talk about because it helps. For example, in the book, Benny and Byron go on this journey listening to their mom's recording, and they have flashbacks of their life when they were kids or when they were just in their young 20s before the family kind of fell apart. There were things that the mom told the kids that made them reflect back to a certain situation and look at it differently, and they can have a little bit more empathy for what happened, or they can use what happened and kind of make a different decision for their life in the future. But without that reflection, without that knowledge, either the kids go to the same thing on their own, or they have no idea how to just get through it. I know it's hard to share bad things about us to other people, but that's because we feel so ashamed that it happened to us. And if we try to work through that shame, it again gets us to evolve, but it also helps everyone else. And so that's why the lesson that I learned from Black Cake is that everyone has a story, and telling it or keeping it a secret impacts lives after us. When you read this book, if you read this book, you'll understand why the mom kept some things a secret, because it wasn't just like secrets like, I don't know, I ate the cake when you were younger. It was secrets that could have led to more devastating stuff. That's understandable, but I can still learn what I learned from it by this story being told. Charmaine Wilkerson did an amazing job of writing the perspective of a whole bunch of people, bringing the story to a good close, writing perspectives of a lot of people, and bringing out not only the culture of a Jamaican family, the culture of Jamaica, the way mothering is done on that island, and the way family is seen. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think it's going to be one of those books that I recommend for a long time, especially to Black women and Black men. But it was mostly a lot of the stuff around Black women. I rated that book 5 out of 5. If you couldn't tell, if you couldn't just guess what I rated it, 5 out of 5. So the next book on my list is The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. Let's read it, shall we? Oh, that's my review. Oh, girl. A recently deceased woman meets the one in the afterlife waiting room, scoring a second chance at life and love if she can find him on Earth before 10 days are up. If she wasn't dead already, Delphi would be dying of embarrassment. Not only did she just die by choking on a microwavable burger, she's also now standing in her sparkle and shine nightie in front of the hottest man she's ever met, and he's smiling at her. As they start to chat, everything else becomes background noise. This is until someone comes running through the door yelling something about a huge mistake and sends the dreamy stranger back down to Earth. And there, Delphi was thinking her luck might be different in the afterlife. When Delphi is offered a deal in which she can return to Earth and reconnect with the mysterious man, she jumps at the opportunity to find her possible soulmate and a fresh start. But to find him in a city of millions, Delphi is going to have to listen to her heart, learn to ask for help, and perhaps even see the magic in the life she's leaving behind. Where I explain a lot of the other books, this one I think is kind of straightforward, where Delphi is given a chance to live her life again and find a love of her life and kiss him before 10 days are up. She is very strategic in how she does it. And in doing so, she ends up making so many friends in the process. She ends up meeting another love of her life in the process. She ends up realizing just how cool her life could be if she were to just have tried in the first place. Delphi has a very estranged relationship with her parents, which has led her to be somewhat of a lone wolf in her adult years. So she doesn't have many friends. She doesn't do much. She, even to the point where she keeps her hair in a high bun, and that is something that is like talked about throughout the book, and it evolves to her like having her hair down, and then that's different. There is a trope of enemies to lovers. There's a one bed in the hotel room trope, which is really fun. There's a high school bully in there. There's a finally standing up for yourself in there. It's a lot of revelations that Delphi gets to in 10 days as she's trying to figure out her fucking life. And the lesson that I learned from this book is, I put LMAO, just try to live and not just survive. Relationships outside of family and intimate boyfriend or girlfriend are so important. That's like literally it. And I think it goes back to like the funny story one as well, which is just like being present enough to see that the life that you want is right in front of you. Yes, we don't always have a say in the hand that we're dealt, but we can still try to live the best life we can. I understand that Delphi had to first die and get another chance at life to learn this, but the people that she became friends with were people who were around her the entire time. And it took enlisting their help and learning about them and learning who they are to her to realize, oh, these people are pretty cool. Oh, this is actually a pretty fun life to have. Oh, I actually really like this and I want to keep this. And at the end of it, she had to decide whether she was going to let the 10 days pass without finding this guy and die, or actually fight for the life that she was able to cultivate within 10 days. And I think that's important just with every life, not just the 10 days you have after you die in the afterlife. So just live and try not to survive. And that comes with the reflection of whether or not life is happening to you instead of you just living life. That sounds so like hand holding, prayer circle, just breathe kind of thing, but there is a depth to that one can only experience for themselves. To get out of survival mode and just try to live is a choice to make over and over again, and it's an exercise in trying to live a life. It doesn't just happen overnight unless you're Delphi and it's written and it happens within 10 days, but it took a lot for me to realize that a lot of the things that I've done in life have been from a place of fear and not wanting to be out of control. It was from a place of fear and wanting to control things. So I did A, B, and C. Obviously, D, E, and F would happen. That's not how that works. We're not really in control of our life and the hand that we've been dealt, but we can do things that make us happy and that help us live life and not just survive it. I keep saying the same thing over and over again because I don't know of a way to take my experience with this and like give it to you and show you. It has been ridiculously treacherous to learn that lesson and to change from survival to living and to work on my nervous system and not feel like I'm dying, but I'm trying just to have fun in life or make a decision that I know is going to be the best. Because also with that, decisions we make to live our life aren't really all. If you see that we look a little shifted, it's because our mic died just for a second and had to make sure I know what part the mic died on so I can continue talking. Only thing that I didn't catch before I caught that this was dying is that working on your nervous system and making choices to live a life that you want isn't always easy ever. It's not just like going to brunch and like having good friends. It's like reflecting on things that have happened to you in the past and wanting to evolve from that. And I was also saying Kirsty Greenwood did a great job of putting this story together that was entertaining, full of tropes, full of learning, talking about the dynamic between a mother and daughter, father and daughter, and how when they don't show up for you, how it can reflect on you and how you move past that, learn past that, all in like a fun rom-com-y way. I loved it so much, and if you're looking for something like that, all that, I think we're done here. But those are all the lessons that I've learned through the books that I have read in the past year, from the age of 30 to 31. If you read any of these books, let me know below. If you want to read any of these books, let me know down below. If you kind of relate to some of these lessons, also let me know down below. I love you. I am grateful for you, and I will see you in the next one. I didn't do that. Bye. Bye.